This is your moment. This is your time. Embrace every milestone. No looking behind. What's your vantage point?
Welcome to the Ladies of Vantage Point. I'm Serge Marie.
And I'm Alexa.
I'm Lori.
I'm Natalie.
In our last show, we really talked about sex. There's a good side of sex, something that God created to be a wonderful thing, but there's also a dark side. And we really talked about sex trafficking and the news currently about R. Kelly and the Catholic Church and historically Michael Jackson. And one of the things that we really wanted to bring home is the awareness of it all. But as I'm thinking through our last show, one of the things that really hit home for me is what's currently going on in the Catholic Church. I was raised Catholic. I went to private school for 9 years. And thank God, we didn't experience that. Thank God. But I watched an interview on MSNBC, excuse me. And this young lady was saying how she was, serving. A young man was an altar boy. And the priest would take them to the confessional room and molest them. And this went on for many, many years. And he talked about the shame of it all. And it took him many, many years to come forth. And the young lady said, it went on for quite some time until she finally said something. And of course, her parents took action and there was a lawsuit. One thing she said that really registered for me, she said, how do you go to court up against God?
See, and that's the problem.
Whoa.
People put God on the stand, and God is not in that.
You're absolutely right.
The devil
but
is.
But you have to understand, we're talking about a young lady who was placed in the church to serve.
Yeah.
And they're looking at the priest as an oracle. This is my example. They're supposed to be Christ-like. So they look at the priest as the father, per se.
They commune directly
They
to God.
commune directly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the piece. And here's the thing that gets me. The Vatican is aware of it. The Pope is aware of it. And what is done? Absolutely nothing.
Well, this Pope is taking more of a stance than past popes, correct?
Not that I'm aware of, because I don't see anyone incarcerated. Yeah. They just throw millions of dollars their way, and it's just hushed.
What I know of that situation is that historically the Catholic Church has moved priests from place to place.
That's right.
So instead of firing them or just communicating with them, they've actually just placed them to another place where they're unknown, where they can start again.
A relocation.
Like taking breast cancer and putting it in your knee. Like you're just
Good.
moving it around.
It's a problem, and you're not taking out the cancer out.
Yeah,
You're just
good.
moving it to a different place.
Yeah.
And one of the issues is that the young people that are in these situations, they're the ones, along with their parents, who are looking up to people. And for them to be in a position where someone who is in a position of authority is saying, do this with me, of course you're going to get seduced into the idea that this is right. And along with that, physically, just in terms of how we're made up, it's going to feel good. So here is somebody who is an authority over you, who's doing something to you that physically feels good, even though you do have that idea that it's wrong, but can it be wrong? And you just kind of go back and forth and back and forth. At one point, you might sell it like this is okay, this is good, because he said so. And it will take years of counseling and awareness for someone to come up out of that, especially young men. I think it takes something like 20 years or something like that for men to fully be able to come forward with something like that. So it's a tragedy. It's a long developed, long-term strategy against kids with a long-term solution.
It's calculated. It's absolutely calculated. And the shame and the embarrassment that comes with it, that I have to say that this happened to me and this person touched me, and then the ownership that you feel that, well, if it's so bad, why did I like it so much? And I must have played a part in this if I enjoyed it so much. And then there's also those organizations, the FDLS, who they broke off the Mormon church, and they're into polygamy and having multiple wives, and so these women think that they're doing this for God.
Wow.
They're thinking that I'm assuming my role. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to have children. I'm supposed to take care of my house. and he, as the head, is supposed to be able to marry whomever he wants. And so now you've got generations of this. You know, you've got Warren Jeff, who's the leader.
Right.
He's the leader of the FLDS. He's currently serving a life sentence plus 20 years for marrying a 14-year-old, but he's still running the church.
And it's amazing how much
He's
influence he has
running the
behind
church
bars.
from the bars. And where he lost me, well, he lost me a long time ago. He said God told him that no one should have sex.
Yeah.
Nobody
And then
else
mine-
should
Wait a
have
minute, so nobody's having sex
Nobody's
now?
supposed to have sex.
Yep, no one's having sex because he said so behind
I don't
bars.
understand.
Yes. He
So-
said he got a revelation. It all comes from these prophecies. He's the prophet.
Right.
And so it all comes from this revelation that he received that no one can have sex. And they you know, polygamy was a thing with, you know, in the Mormon church. You know,
yeah, sure.
this is, you know, back centuries ago. And the FLDS, the members, they no longer agreed with what the Mormons said, so they broke off and did their own thing. They've got like 10,000 members, you know.
And
there's
compounds.
and compounds. And these women, you know, they might not see their husbands for a long time, and they leave them in these dilapidated houses, you know, that one of the, I watched the show, it's Escaping Polygamy, and they came in because someone called DFS because there was no running water. But these women feel like they're sacrificing, and then they're grooming their daughters
Right.
to get married to their uncles because they want to keep the line pure.
Right.
So they want the bloodline to remain
And the
pure.
sons to do the same.
And the sons,
Yeah.
but they don't mess with the men as much.
Of
Right.
course.
It's the abuse of the women.
I remember watching the show Big Love. It was on HBO several years ago, and it's about polygamists. And I would look at it in awe because I knew it was real. But what Big Love also did, it showed two sides to polygamy. And part of it could have been fiction, but you know, I know there was some interviews with the writers that were speaking to the truth of it. But they kind of glamorized it. The lead character in the show, I forget his name, I think it was like Bill was his name. And he had 3 wives or 4 wives, and it portrayed a loving family where they each had, you know, their compound was maybe 3 or 4 homes in like a perfect square. They shared a backyard. But he would literally rotate from night to, and it was like a different persona from
Amazing.
each of the women, and they loved each other, and
Sister wives.
They're
I was thinking
sisters.
sister wives, too.
And if one would leave, they would grieve. It was fascinating, but they glamorized it.
But that's all that mindset. You know, we think that when we see it in the news, it seems like, oh, this just happened. It didn't just happen.
No.
There was a process. There was a courting process. There was, you know, some manipulation. There were, you know, as you mentioned in the other show, about the games and how they court them and see. So it starts small, you know, and with teachers, you know, and that's not just putting men out there.
Right.
There's some women out there doing some
Absolutely.
things
Yeah,
too.
sure.
And so, you know, there was recently a female teacher that, and there's plenty of them. We don't even need to talk about recent. There's plenty of them, you know, courting young men. And it might start off with, and it's sometimes those kids that need extra help. So stay after school and let me help you a little bit. And then let me do this and let me do this. And then eventually it turns into, you know, the kid might feel like, well, I owe you.
Yeah.
You know, you really, really care about me. And so we have to make sure that we're paying attention to the whole courting process and how they're trying to brainwash.
It's planned.
It
Yeah.
is planned.
It's planned. It's
Very
alert.
alert. It's coordinated.
And you're, you know, they meaning whoever the perpetrator is, they know what to look for. You can see vulnerability.
Yes.
You can spot the weakness. It's a crack.
A
That's all the
friend of
devil
mine
needs.
was telling me about sex trafficking. She's involved in ministry there, and she was telling me that the typical scenario is that you have pimps, and they can be like just regular high school age guys, and they go to malls.
High school.
High school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they go to malls, and they look for the little pack of girls that are running around, and they will look at them and they'll think, okay, this one's dressed, this one's together. Whoever seems confident, they will not go after that one.
correct.
But the one who's a little bit quieter, the one who's the follower, more vulnerable, and nothing is necessarily wrong with this person.
Yeah.
It's not like she's lacking in any other regular resources in life. But they will look for someone who seems a little bit less confident than the others, and they will go over,
No voice.
and they'll
No
just
voice.
start talking to them, and they're basically grooming them, and it's kind of like, I like you, and just showing attention, just showing someone attention that they don't normally get.
Yeah.
you're very vulnerable and very susceptible when you're that age. 12 to 14, I think we were saying in the last show, is the average age of someone being inducted into sex trafficking. And so that attention, you like it. He didn't go after girl A, B, and C, who everyone likes. He came after me this time. Then she said, this is the kicker. This is what surprised me. There'll be another girl who's still part of this coordinated effort who'll come along and say, yeah, my friend really likes you. Can I get your number? Can you do this? And she's egging it on and egging it on, trying to overcome any of those reservations that you had because my good parent told me not to go off by myself and my good parent told me not to do this, but trying to erase any reservations you have. You can trust him. Oh, do it. Oh, he likes you. He might be gone later. Anything like that. The next thing you know,
You're caught up. You're caught up.
she's strung out.
And I'm sure she didn't think it was going to be something continual. It starts out, oh, it's just one act, and then he says, hey, I need you to do me this favor. We need a little extra money, and so they do this one thing, and then they move on from there. But you're talking about sex trafficking, and I'm thinking, is there a difference between sex trafficking and prostitution?
Absolutely. Yes. I think we need to look at prostitution. Well, it is a crime, but we look at prostitution as a public nuisance, but oftentimes it is a basic human rights issue. It is someone who is held in captivity as hostage for payment for something. It's very, very important. But we judge sex trafficking, which is prostitution, right?
Well, there's a difference though. They're defined differently too, though. So sex trafficking is the abduction. Right. In most cases, the person is abducted, and there's fraud and deception similar to prostitution. So I think it's a fine line. Okay, that's what you were saying.
But I think, again, it comes back to judgment. Like, we see it and we judge. And I remember I used to, one of my old neighborhoods I used to live in, when I used to turn the corner, I would see it all the time, all the time. And these were women who were deeply sick, suffering from drug addiction. And I would see, for real, the Bentley, the Aston Martins turn the corner and pay for a sexual favor. And so, you would judge and say this is to feed an addiction, but sometimes there's a pimp behind that saying, I'll pay for your addiction, but you continue to work. And there's a lot of money behind this on average.
Yes.
On average, I think I read somewhere that pimps can make anywhere from $1,400 to $3,500 a day.
A day. That's
a
correct.
day.
Yeah.
This is a $32 billion industry.
Unreal.
So do you think prostitution should be legalized?
Well, that's interesting. In Las Vegas, is it still legal in Las Vegas?
I was under the impression it is still legal in Vegas.
But I'm talking about, like Philly, Delaware, New Jersey, New York.
No.
I don't
Do you think that it should be legalized?
No, but you will hear some women say, this is my bread and butter. I'm an entrepreneur, and this is a skill or a resource that I have. There are those women too. Yeah.
But do I have the right as a woman? If I want to be a prostitute, why do you get the right to tell me that I'm going to jail because I want to sell my body? It's my body, and if I want to sell it, who are you?
That's a great point. To each his own. To each his own. It brings me to this young lady that actually it is painful, that actually 18 years old, to your point, was hanging out with her friends at an amusement park in New York City. And one of her friends said, hey, this dude likes you. She was 18. This young man was 28. And providing all the things that she felt she was lacking. Obviously, this young lady had low self-esteem. She had a son. He actually befriended her, became her boyfriend, and then was like, well, you know what? I want you to start prostituting. And she was like, nah, I don't do that. He was like, well, how many guys have you slept with?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, and she said, and she was very honest. She says, I was pretty promiscuous, and I had a kid out of wedlock, all that. She was like, yeah, well, I had sex with X amount. He was like, well, you're doing it anyway, but you're just doing it for free.
Exactly my point.
I shared with you about the poverty simulation. And there was a point in there where I had, in my kit, again, this is a fictitious land of poverty, and I had items in there that I could potentially pawn. And there was a pawn shop in this space, and so I needed money because I couldn't make it. So I brought items to the pawn shop, and the actor who was playing, who was working the pawn shop, sort of implied, I'll give you more money for a sexual favor. Wow. Right? This is something that poor people are faced with. And just like that, you're sucked up into that. Okay, but this might be a way I can feed my baby. Or pay a bill.
There was a woman in jail. Problem with it? There was a woman in jail, and she was talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying, I can make $6,000. I'm not going to go to McDonald's. I'm not going to flip a hamburger at McDonald's. I'm going to do what I do because I can make that kind of money.
And what's wrong with that?
She's in jail.
That's what I'm
I mean,
saying. Should
the
she
other side of
be
it
in
is that
jail?
she's in jail.
It's her body. If she wants to, and we're talking about prostitutes, but to the guy's point, you're having sex with all these people. You're just not getting paid for it. So, I mean, the mindset is, why don't I just get paid if I'm going to do it? I just don't think we have the right to tell women that they can't sell their bodies. I mean, you want to sell your body.
So you agree that it should be legal?
Yeah, she's saying it should be.
I do. Okay. I think it should be legal. I think you should be able to. Okay, so you're saying we're going to legalize gay marriage, right? That's okay, no problem, you know, because when it comes down to it, sex, the right and wrong side of it is biblical. It all comes down to what you believe biblically. If you believe that sex before marriage is a sin, that's what makes it wrong. Take the religion out of it.
Right.
If you don't have the religion in it, what's your validation on the person not being able to sell themselves? I can do what I want to do. That's just like being a stripper. If I want to go ahead and take my clothes off and spin around a pole and carrying on, that's why I can't sing, because I'll be spinning around on some pole. But that's another thing. But if I want to take my clothes off and spin around on some pole, you know what I mean? I think they're very acrobatic, as a matter of fact. Have you seen a stripper's body? Some strippers, I tell you what, they can do some stuff.
Like some on the pole.
Flip around and pop
but coming back,
they're like little ninjas.
coming back.
That's not funny.
Bring me back.
But wait a minute. But there's a. But let's all. I hear you, and I understand both sides to this. I don't want to judge that woman because it's hard.
That's right.
It's a hard life.
Teach his own. I don't think it should be legal. I don't think it shouldn't. I don't have a stance in that. It's my. I just sense that it's a danger behind that. But again,
But what
if
makes
that's
it
what you
dangerous
choose-
is that it's illegal.
Well, not
Because
just
if
that.
it was-
You could be murdered.
Well,
No,
there's
because
rape.
the vaccine stuff.
the reason why laws are made, generally speaking, is because you're trying to enhance society and protect society.
That's correct.
And so, generally speaking, you're making laws that are going to protect society, especially protect the voiceless ones, the people who will be perpetrated against. You won't have any kind of way to get around it if that happens to them. So generally speaking, the reason why prostitution would be criminalized is because so many, especially women, would fall into that category. It would harm them, it would harm their future, it would harm their children, et cetera, et cetera. Now,
talk about
the slippery slope is that where do you draw the line on morality? Who is the one who says that this is moral and this is not? And that gets to your point about sex.
That's an individual
It's a
choice.
really intriguing question, Lori, because laws are made in the aggregate, but individuals will like you will sit here and think, oh, wait a minute, that's not so. I thought what you were going to say is on the heels of the abortion debate. If you're going to say that a woman's body is a woman's body, and so she can control what she has inside of her body, when she can release it, when she can stop it, etc., that same line of thinking goes to your point. If this is my body, then why can't I sell?
That's a little different to me.
No,
because
but
that's
how is that
But see, no, but wait a minute. But that just shows something different in you.
But that's
and I'll tell you,
different.
but
The
here's
principle's the same.
because I feel like you're making a choice for somebody who doesn't have a voice. It depends on, in my opinion, my vantage point. It depends to me when you think that baby or egg or embryo becomes an actual human being. That's my opinion.
So your division is along the lines of when it hurts somebody and when it doesn't hurt somebody.
Well, it's the voiceless,
Because with
like you
abortion,
just
you're
said.
saying that this is a person and it will
Right.
hurt someone.
Right.
That question of whether or not this is a person and the scale of a long time.
And let me tell you-
it's in debate, but you're saying that prostitution doesn't hurt anybody.
Right, well, and I think
It does.
also-
No,
and
I
that's
disagree
the
with
thing.
that.
So let me clarify the abortion
disagree with
thing.
that.
I disagree.
Because with abortion, and my vantage point has changed over time.
Got it.
Way over time. I think, in my opinion, Lori's vantage point, I think it's murder. I think it's wrong. I think the long-term effects of it are crazy, and that's my opinion. In prostitution, I think of the bunny ranch. You know, these women who it's legal on the bunny ranch, they're running, they getting paid up at the bunny ranch, you know. And you're not looking at people getting murdered. You're not looking at people getting, abused. I think once you legalize it, now you put some parameters around it. Let's take marijuana, for instance. Now that marijuana is legalized, now you have all these shops that are popping up. And, and we get a little tax dollars from
You
it.
should really be a lawyer. That is a great.
I don't want to be a lawyer.
That's a
I'm
really-
just,
no,
I
that's
just
a
want
good
women
point.
rights. This my body.
That's a good point.
Oh, yeah.
I get being under, more safe conditions.
Right.
But the fact is, I think there's less of those entrepreneur spirits. There's less of those people and more people falling victim to sex trafficking. I think there's a lot. I don't know the numbers,
legal, right?
but I'd be curious.
But if it was legal, now you're opening up schools.
But if there's no governance,
prostitution?
Like in the Bunny Ranch,
Right.
then maybe there'd be a problem. I don't know.
So wait
I
a
don't
minute,
know.
are
This
you
is tough.
saying
But I
that
think-
if we were to legalize prostitution, we would see less impact in sex trafficking or human trafficking? Is that what you're saying?
I believe there might be some impact. And
think
again,
so.
in my mind,
I don't think so.
But wait, I need to clarify, because in my mind, sex trafficking and prostitution are two totally different things.
Right.
So do I think sex trafficking? No. I think sex trafficking is gonna, but as far as prostitution, here's my thing. Every time I see a prostitute, you know what I say? That's somebody's daughter.
Yes.
Or mother.
That is somebody's daughter. That's somebody's mother. You know what I mean? And maybe if they were, prostituting in a legal way, they could get the services that they need. They could, even gamblers. Gambling was, and all of this stuff.
But
is
a lot of them,
you're
don't
saying-
want to be in that space.
Wait.
How
So,
would
Laura,
you
you're saying make this on an even playing field, and then at least some of the harm that comes with prostitution. Why do the bunny prostitutes prosper, where you have street prostitutes and they're having such a hard time?
Exactly.
So you're saying if make it an even playing field, it might be better.
Yes.
But if you're looking at a prostitute wherever they are, and you're saying that's somebody's child, then innately are you saying it's wrong?
Oh, I definitely think prostitution's wrong. Don't get that
Okay.
twisted. Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Because that needs to be said along with the idea.
I do
That
not
should be
support
said.
You
prostitution.
think
at
about
all.
safety
At all.
and a choice.
I'm thinking about rights. And I'm thinking
See, I'm
about,
thinking about safety.
But if you're thinking about safety, then prostitution needs to be legal, because that's what provides the parameters for safety. Because think about it. Now you've got more of a problem. So now I'm already in poverty, right? And now I'm being arrested. Now I got a criminal record, or I'm in jail. I can't take care of my kids, which brings me back to the whole other issue while I was prostituting in the first place. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, making it illegal is not helping the issue.
Making it legal, you're saying, will have some governance around it so that there'll be some parameters of safety.
And all falls back to the foundation of it all. Everybody needs Jesus. Okay? If you know who you are in Jesus, and you know what I mean? You don't need that. You know who you are. And education, and making sure that these kids, when you don't feel like you have another way out, I get the right to sell my body if I want to surgery. It don't matter what you say.
But what about the moral aspect?
Your morals, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Okay, can you eat morals? Can you put the diaper? Can you diaper your baby with morals? No.
Actually,
This is tough. But I'd
is
be
tough.
curious to see if there was some kind of study or analytics of places where it is legal, like Las Vegas, compared to
Bunny
other
Ranch.
states. And I don't know. And the other thing
If
to
you add
consider
up the
is
total cost, not
Right.
just the surface cost, but if you add up
Correct.
the total cost
Right.
of what it does to mankind.
because there's
versus
money, there's feeding your children, but then there's also all the long-term effects that become generational,
That's
and
correct.
it gets.
That's what I'm
it
So
thinking.
gets
wait, what
deep.
are the benefits of making it illegal? What are the benefits of
don't know.
prostitution being illegal?
You for it? What you?
I don't have any. I'm proving my case. I already told you.
I'll be
what
honest with
the
you.
benefits.
Regardless if you make it legal or not, people are going to do what they're going to do, regardless. I know of young ladies, teenagers, who actually market themselves on the internet and have strange men come to their homes
Yes.
and have sex for whatever. This young lady says she makes about $1,400 a day. Mom and dad are oblivious to it.
I want to know from
So-
you people who wanted to stay illegal, what are your benefits besides your morals?
Well,
What are the benefits?
The bottom line is, if there's a person who's
wrong.
vulnerable, who's held hostage, it should be illegal.
Yeah,
it is
sex
enslavement.
That's sex trafficking, right?
I'm
You
talking
gotta
about
make a distinction between
prostitution.
sex
Yeah.
trafficking.
Prostitution. Tell me,
I
what
don't know.
are the benefits of it being illegal?
Well, what are the benefits? To me, it's just a moral thing. Why would you want to?
Well, tell me about your morals.
you can't blame them.
Hold on a minute. What about who you are as a woman? Your body is a precious vessel. You want every Joe, Schmo, John coming in here and do whatever they will, what they will with you, and for you're putting a price tag on something that is priceless.
Yeah,
But you know
but
what?
if
But
you're
that's
hurting,
great
I
that you
get
get
it,
to be
maybe
in
I'm
that
being-
position, and people will look at you and say, "You sitting up here with your rhinestones and your pretty earrings and your nice hair." But guess what? You're in a position that you don't have to do it. But if I want to do it, I should be able to do it because you know what? I want to sit there with my rhinestones
I
and my
think we
pretty
just have
shirt.
two different things.
I disagree. I'm gonna tell you why I disagree. Because I didn't have it all together. Okay, what you see today is mistakes, things that I have done right, things I didn't do right, and this is the product. And I'm still evolving. We have choices. Bottom line, surgery is not walking on nobody's water. That's just fact. But I refuse to sell my body. Why? Because I have options. We all have options, is what I'm saying to you. I don't believe.
Wait a minute. I think here's where it's getting really different.
Yes, we do.
I think
we do.
We don't all have options. If my baby is hungry, I'm going to do whatever it is that I have to do to make sure that my baby eats. And let me tell you what, if God forbid I ever had to be in that situation, but by the grace of God go I. Let Jerry Jordan Jackson need some shoes. Mama gonna make it happen.
I get it, but it doesn't have to be prostitution.
But it don't have to not be.
No. Oh, it does not have to be prostitution.
Oh boy.
Well, clearly you both are very passionate about this, the two sides.
And I'm not hiring her. You ain't getting no job, and I don't want your daughters neither. Can we put it out there? I am not for prostitution.
I get it.
I'm just saying from the other side that there are plenty of people out there in the world that say I should have my choice.
I just want to add this. Everybody has a different vantage point. Everybody has a different circumstance.
Yes.
Everybody is not Serge, Alexa, Lori, or Natalie. So, again, layers and layers of stuff. We're running out of time, but I do want to share. There's some, where do you see sex trafficking often? And there's some places that we should be aware of. It's oftentimes big events where there's a lot of men.
Yes.
So like the Super Bowl is a peak time. We live in the state of Delaware, and Delaware Firefly Festival. Any place, like high stakes games where men frequent is where you see it quite often. And some signs are common. Red flags are living with their employer or multiple people in cramped quarters. Young ladies who typically didn't have the means, and all of a sudden they have it, right? And being in education, I'd see this.
Yeah.
I'd see this, and there's even some flight attendants now, and airport employees, and they're being trained on how to see this. Right. What I learned is that in the state of Delaware, we're like a corridor for sex trafficking because we're tri-state. We have easy access to New York, Philadelphia, D.C.
The whole 95 corridor.
And it's right under our nose.
Yeah.
Are there any resources that we can provide? We're going to make sure that we post those things and make sure that we have some resources for those out there. Yeah.
When I was doing some research on this, there's a group in terms of awareness, just making sure that you go out there and you understand what's happening, especially if you didn't know what was going on before, specifically with sex trafficking. There's a website that you should check out called Polaris. Polaris stands for the North Star, and it's bringing people out of sex trafficking situations, and that's their North Star. So check out the website Polaris. And then also in terms of letting people know, if you see something, say something. Again, a friend was telling me about this guy in Delaware who went and he saw a video. It gave him more awareness of the situation. And then after that, when he saw it in his neighborhood, in his nice, cleaned up suburban neighborhood, he realized it was happening to somebody in his neighborhood, and he got them arrested, and he got it shut down. So there's an 800 number that you should know. It's 1-888-373-7888.
Let's do that one again.
1-888-373-7888. And we'll have that below. So make sure that you check out those resources because this is a big issue. We just really scratched the surface. A $62 billion industry. Young people who are servicing up to 30 and 40 people a night. Wow. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. So check it out. Check us out.
And if you live in the state of Delaware, if you pick up the phone and simply dial 211, there are operators on the other line who are ready to help you. This was good. This was good and passionate and colorful, but we have to remember not to judge, and let's be in prayer for all the people who are hurting out there, men and women, even the perpetrators. And so we want you to join the conversation. I'm going to challenge all of our viewers to use your voice. You say something. And you can do that by subscribing to our YouTube channel at VP Ladies or follow us on Facebook at the Ladies of Vantage Point. This is our Vantage Point.
What's yours?
What's your vantage